Hi everyone, I'm Maddie.
And I'm Amber.
And we're
Witches Talking Tarot.
And we had a really fun introduction this time.
We did. It almost sounded like you were going to say I'm Amber.
I was.
I was like, should I say I'm Maddie? Hi, everybody.
Well, if you're still with us, today we're going to be talking... It's a conspiracy theory episode, but it's also not a conspiracy theory
I
episode.
wouldn't put the word conspiracy.
It's a theory.
It's a theory.
Episode. Right,
yes.
It's a theory episode.
Yes.
I shouldn't say conspiracy theory.
Yeah, no,
We're going to start...
Theories are good, yeah.
By closing our eyes, because I always do this, and imagining it's a long-ass time ago. Amber knows the exact time, I think. It's Pangea.
Oh, okay. So it is 320 million years ago to 195 million years ago.
Were there dinosaurs?
During Pangea is when we started seeing dinosaurs.
Okay, so when we started seeing dinosaurs, so this is the start of dinosaurs.
Yes, there weren't
so in my head I'm imagining...
dinosaurs before from the fossil record. The fossil record does not show dinosaurs pre-Pangea, but it specifically what I read said dinosaurs came about during Pangea.
Okay, so in my head I'm imagining turtles. We got a fish, he just walked on land. You know, we're that long ago, right? So the theory is that Pangea... This theory... You go ahead. You start, Amber. You start this shit. Because I'm like, go ahead.
Do you want to just call it what you've been referring to it as so we can get the title, like the intro out there? Oh, no, I meant the one religion.
Oh, one religion theory, okay. So I actually, this theory was introduced to me while I was studying world history in high school. I didn't realize at the time it was, I don't want to say Christian based, but it's Christian leaning.
It comes from Christian mythology.
Okay.
That's a good way to put it, right? Even if it's not Christian itself, it comes from that same mental track.
Right. And I could see where someone would come down that.
Yeah.
Okay,
because then you're musing on mythology, right. And it just happens to stem from Christian mythology, which the Bible is Christian mythology, guys. It is a book full of myths from the Christian perspective.
I try and use the term lore when it comes to certain things like Hellenic lore, Christian lore. That's just a personal thing for me. It's the same thing, really. It's just, to me, lore, I just prefer that term myself. But
well, mythology is specific to the myths that are being spoken about, because myths have been proven real. So it doesn't mean you're talking about something fake, but it's the study of these stories, and that's why I use the term mythology, because it is the specific word for this thing in time, whereas lore can encompass a lot more than just the myths, but we're talking about the study of these myths.
Sorry guys, it is fucking late.
We took a break and made cream cheese, and it was delicious.
It was delicious. So we're trying to get back into the thing.
Yeah, okay, I'm super excited for this episode.
I was introduced to this theory in world history by my high school teacher, who said that the theory was that there was possibly a civilization on Pangea. They all shared, it was like a giant city, whatever you want to call it. They all shared a culture. They all shared a faith. And then when Pangea separated, the civilization also separated. These people went to Asia. These people went to however Pangea separated, I don't know. And they created their own languages and they created their own faiths, but they all still kind of remember that faith from Pangea, which would be the ultimate religion, which explains why there's floods in every religion and there's a giant snake in every religion, and religions are so similar. There's the same creatures in most religions. It doesn't make sense scientifically, no. For the standpoint of the timeline, just doesn't.
It does not add up. But so first we're gonna cover that real quick. Pangea was 320 million years to 195 million years ago when it came together. And then after 195 million years ago is when it started to come apart. I couldn't find an exact date for when it like came apart. It came apart piece by piece by piece, like
So
India
it wasn't
split
one
off.
giant split then? It wasn't one giant
It wasn't
earthquake?
like, no, just like it didn't come together in one giant thing either. Okay, so quick background on Pangea. And I am not a fucking geologist or scientist or anything like that. So you can come at me all you want on Amber is the Color or Amber is the Color 42 on all the socials. Come at me all you want, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm saying right now. This is what I read. So I read in multiple different scientific magazines so I could understand Pangea better for the purposes of this episode, because whereas I've heard of Pangea and I know about Pangea, I thought I knew about Pangea, I don't actually know a lot about Pangea other than the fact that Pangea was one giant landmass that included all of what we know of land on Earth. But that in and of itself is wrong. Okay, that right there is wrong. That's not Pangea. But so I also didn't know when Pangea was, right? I knew it was a really long fucking time ago, and I thought it had to do with the dinosaurs, but that's all I knew. And I thought maybe Pangea came apart with the comet, but no, that's not the case.
Shit.
Yeah,
I didn't
no.
even think about that. I mean, it's not true, but I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I really didn't know. So in order to have any basis for like, going forward in this, I wanted to know, right? So I looked into Pangea. What Pangea was if you guys listened to the Eternal Trees episode, you heard me talk about Gondwana, because Gondwana is where holly comes from. Now, what Pangea is Pangea was Gondwana and La Russia coming together over the course of like a long time. They like move through the waters of Earth and they come together. And of course, it's two large ass landmass coming together. So they don't come together and just like gently settle. They came together and created the Appalachian Mountains and another mountain range that runs through. I can't remember the name of the other mountain range, but it runs through to son of a fuck me. Now I can't remember where else this mountain range runs through, but it's over in fucking like Europe and Asia is where like, so this mountain range came together during Pangea when Gondwana, where holly is, and La Russia come together. Now Gondwana is made up of a bunch of things that we know of as other continents today. La Russia made up of a bunch of other things that we know of as continents today. And then other pieces of land that were pushed together in the middle between them as they came together, right? Because there are other things out there that are what we know today as, I don't know what all separate pieces, because they don't name the separate pieces. They call them what those land masses were known as back then. And I had no context for this learning. So it's right. Exactly. Thank you. So these things come together and they're separated by this gigantic ocean called like Neotithus or something.
So, wait. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Is this an ocean that we know? It must be the same ocean.
Right. It was known by a different name, right? So it's probably like the Pacific and others, because Gondwana and La Russia come together. They make Pangea with a couple other pieces of land that they like smush in with them when they're coming together. And they make Pangea. Now, over across this gigantic piece of ocean, completely separating Pangea from the other land masses of like North China, South China, and two other names of land masses that are probably like the Philippines and stuff like that. I don't know, because it just names the land mass that I'm not familiar with the name. And because this was so much to look into, I didn't look into everything that made up each landmass, because that was going to be
a long ass
way too much to remember, and like wasn't going to remember it. And I knew, so I didn't bother. No offense. If you're interested though, you can educate yourself and you can look into it. But so Pangea back then, hundreds of millions of years ago comes together. It exists in a way that we wouldn't imagine for it to exist, because the most of everything that was fertile and did really well life-wise, it was all up toward the north. The things that were in the tropics was like mostly crocodiles and like all meat eaters, because plants didn't do well there.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I mean,
Well,
it's still similar like that now. I mean, like,
but it's not, because like when you think of the tropics now, you think of lush plants. There were no plants.
well, that's true.
Plants
That's
didn't
true.
do
But
well.
when I think of the tropics, I also think of alligators
Right.
and those kimono dragons and things like that.
Right, but there was much less biodiversity than there is now, I guess, is like what the point of
But
the
those same
takeaway.
type of animals, which is crazy because they've been there this whole fucking time.
Well, and they have been, and at the same time, like they didn't the things that live further up north. So I guess they would have been closer to like, well, they wouldn't have been woolly mammoths yet, because this is way the fuck before then. But it's like they showed like this little thing that you would think of as a dinosaur, but is actually like one of our way back, like
So
what humans came from. They weren't mammals. They looked like reptiles. There were mammals though. But like the thing that said it was like a human, like came before humans, like as far as like in the line of like Homo sapiens, I guess. I don't fucking know. I don't know. Look, I'm not a scientist. I'm just learning for the purposes of the episode. So I don't know that I can properly answer that question, I guess. But there were mammals. They weren't like we see. Were there mammals yet? Maybe there weren't, because the dinosaurs that thrived had the feathers on them, and that's why they were able to deal with the changing temperatures in the northern parts of Pangea as things changed on Earth, whereas the crocodiles didn't do as well, and so a lot of species died off during all that. But that's not the main point. Humans weren't there yet, because humans only came around about 2 million years ago.
Right. So
and
the theory
Pangea separated long before that.
The theory to me is very Christian based, and I think where the teacher
I'm
was
kind of
going with
excited to
it-
talk about, like, I actually love the Christian, like the speaking in tongues and all that. I kind of like
I think
it's fun to talk about, and we should cover it for the purposes of this episode. But yeah,
I
continue,
think
please.
the where that teacher was coming from is absolutely out of the Bible in terms of the Tower of Babel, which I do love. I do love that, where these people, these people were like, we're going to make a tower to heaven. So they get together, they start making a tower to heaven, and for some reason they kind of getting close. And God's like, oh, hell no. You guys are not going to
smack you down. I already gave you that fucking flood.
Yeah,
was
right?
Babel
Like,
before or after the flood? It was after, wasn't it?
After, I think.
Yeah.
Y'all are
already
not
gave you the fucking
going
flood,
to
bitches.
fucking do this shit. So now you can't understand each other. And they woke up the next day and they're like, some bitch is speaking French, and the next person speaking Spanish, and the next person speaking whatever, and they can't communicate.
And it does make a lot of sense as to why we all speak different languages, except you can look back etymologically
Spiritually
and you can see where our different languages come from. But it does it's a good explanation. You know what I mean?
Right, absolutely.
But also I like it from the standpoint of speaking in tongues isn't speaking in gibberish. Speaking in tongues is the different tongues from across the world that are saying the same thing, but they don't necessarily understand each other, because even though they're saying the same thing, they're speaking a different language.
Right. And are you referencing speaking in tongues as in the possession of the Holy Ghost?
I am, because I learned about speaking in tongues from a Pentecostal gentleman who also was like, I don't know why you wear makeup. You don't need makeup. And I was a very self-conscious teenager, was like, you're silly.
Speaking in tongues is a tough subject for me because I don't want to be offensive to anyone. I just don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, no. I just mean, if speaking in tongues is not that at all, that's what people take it to be, and that's how they practice, and it isn't necessarily a safe thing, but it's something else entirely, where it explains. Yes, exactly. Yes, because I love that. I always found that story interesting once I learned it, because
I do think that theory, again, that the teacher was talking about was based on her own and her own faith as opposed to an actual theory.
Yeah.
Let's get into the weird shit.
Yeah, because we go like people weren't around for Pangea, but here's the thing. Yeah, I know people weren't around for Pangea. I do. But But I have this belief that we have much more advanced ancestors than what we acknowledge. I believe that our civilization and what we think of as the ancestors when we talk about the old ways and the first humans and them discovering spirituality, they were just the survivors.
Yes.
They were the survivors of an apocalyptic thing that took out everybody that came before, and that's where we get the Atlantis tales from.
And that's where we're headed.
That is where we're headed because our society is on its way the fuck out, unfortunately. And there's going to be another society that comes afterward. And, we talk about like, what are we going to leave behind? They're going to have to put our lives together based on all the bullshit that's left behind, right? And I think, that's what our ancestors had to do. So how long ago actually did those other not higher up, that's the wrong word, more advanced, more enlightened, more advanced not from a technological standpoint, but from a working with the universe, because we are all part of one cosmic mind. We're all part of one consciousness. And I think the ancestors knew that. Whoever it was that there was the downfall from, I think they knew that. And because we are all one part of the cosmic consciousness, that's how they've been able to pass the message of religion and different things about the world down. And that's why everybody has tales of dragons and everybody has tales of this, and why water means this everywhere and why this means this everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
We could go so far. There are so many theories we could go down with this one.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's one. Pangea could have been Atlantis, or the higher civilization, the more enlightened civilization, and then something happened and caused all that shit.
Yeah.
Or let's go so far as to say Pangea. What the fuck? Where am I going with this? Oh my god, it was so good. It was
okay.
like,
Do you want me to say a thing and then see if you okay. So I'm just going to go back as far as last episode. And in the Great Floods episode, we talked about how the Asian Great Floods, they didn't get warning, but all the others did. You know who was a part of Pangea and who wasn't a part of Pangea? The Asian countries that have myths that didn't get a warning about the Great Flood versus the ones who did. Yes, it is interesting. And I was like, I'm going to mention. Okay, cool. Yes, no, go for it.
The Garden of Eden.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I was going to lose it again.
Pangea was the Garden of Eden. Yes. Well, because here's also
north specifically,
well, and not just that, but we've talked about animals having religion before, right?
Exactly.
If we are descendants of something before that wasn't quite human, and that was a descendant of something before that wasn't quite human, those things did live on Pangea, and they could have had spirituality, and they could have had religion, and they could have had something that was very much exactly like a fucking dragon. And so even they passed it down to us through genetic memory, because genetic memory is a thing, guys. Look into it. It's absolutely a thing.
I'm so sorry. Go ahead. I was just going to say, in the Peter Pan retelling that I read, it's just a thing.
Yeah, but genetic memory is totally a thing, right? So even if they weren't what we consider to be humans, our ancestors could have shared one religion with the cosmic mindset, or let's just stick with the cosmic mindset with esoteric learnings. The cosmic mindset, right? We're all one piece of one cosmic mind, right? You, me, every single body listening, everybody's one piece of the cosmic mind. So doesn't that make it one religion?
Well, I'm sitting here thinking we're gonna call it Atlantis as a default, because that's what keeps popping into my head. The Atlanteans, the Pangeans, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
What if
that sounds so cuddly? A Pangean? It's like a sloth and a panda got together.
I'm mentioning all this, and I'm like, oh my god, they were so advanced. They were of one mind, and something happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that I'm gonna sound crazy. I'm really wondering if Pangea was where the more advanced, more intelligent, more enlightened ancestors were, because nobody can find Atlantis. Nobody can find these places.
Because they don't exist as they were anymore. But you say that, and here's the thing. Okay, so they were so advanced, they all realize that they were one, like they had one single consciousness, and then whatever happened that broke it all apart, made it happen, right? And now there's just very few left who know about the cosmic consciousness, who know about being connected to each other, and that's what we know of as the Anunnaki. Do I need to do the hair thing? And that's what we know of as the Anunnaki.
Aliens.
Yeah. Aliens. No. But they're not aliens. They're our ancestors, and they're just so much more advanced.
Are aliens. We're going into the territory, but I'm just saying it.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think we perceive them as aliens because
That's
we
all.
were the remnants, and they were so advanced, and they were trying to teach
So
us.
you don't think that aliens could have come to Earth and made civilization here?
Well, I didn't say I don't think that's possible, but what I'm saying is not aliens. I am saying like what you're saying about they were so advanced, our ancestors, they were so advanced that they were a one single consciousness. And so then whatever happened, there's only like 5 of them left. There's only 7 of them left. Right. They were, right. No, yes, they did become God.
Oh, I'm sick. I need a minute.
No, but they did. That's exactly
I
it.
did too, yeah.
Yes.
Because
Right.
once we reach entire enlightenment, we all become one.
Right.
We
Exactly.
are the universe.
Right. And so like we knew that we had to teach the survivors, the next generation. So maybe they figured out a way to like go somewhere while like they just chilled while like things happen. And like here's humanity, coming back from the brink, except I guess that would have been their offspring. So like they're teaching the offspring, and the offspring is like, we're trying to learn, but we don't have all the stuff you had when you learned this.
That's
So
what
like,
spirit guides are.
I believe they definitely would become spirit guides after they,
The
passed.
humans.
But like, think about it like from the standpoint of like, if you grow up, okay, if you grow up with no technology, okay, but your parents, they have all this knowledge because they had everything at their fingertips, right? So they're trying to teach you, but they don't have any of the technology to show you. So like now you're writing on cave walls because you don't have paper yet, because there's not enough manpower to cut down the trees to pulp the paper to make the papyrus. So it starts with cave paintings because they got to teach their kids somehow, because they want to make sure the knowledge goes to the next generations and the next generations. And so they orally teach until they can get it down on something.
Well,
And then each step of the way, it gets a little bit better.
my question for you
Knowledge-wise.
is, do you think that the destruction of Pangea or Atlantis, and what do you think happened to these people? Do you think that they were trapped in the situation and they were trying to teach their kids because they were trapped because they got too powerful or they got too smart or enlightened? Or do you think they got so enlightened that they just disappeared into the universe?
So I'm gonna have to be a little bit more here and now with it. I
Too far, Maddie. What
No, like, here's my thing. Like, do I believe that Atlantis like
It was
could
the
have
rapture
popped
and
out
some
of
them fucking went up and some of them stayed here.
maybe? But so I guess I have to take 2 trains of thought to answer it then. So from the one train of thought, it's the standpoint of our Earth is ever changing. It's the nature of our Earth. That's why as humans we need to be adaptable, because the only way we're going to survive is by adapting. So we can't control the shit like we've been trying to. We have to adapt to it so that we can survive it. But anyway, I believe that as the Earth is ever changing, let's say this was a Pangea related thing, and Pangea splits apart, because that's what happens, because the land masses, they move apart as the water moves them. And the land masses move apart, and whatever is living is suddenly thrust into a completely new environment. Some of them die off because they can't survive. Some of them survive.
Life is not fair.
That is correct. I agree. I agree on both counts. So there's small factions of things that are able to survive because maybe the environment doesn't become too hostile, or they still have plenty of food sources, or some, they have advantages through their adaptability as well as natural available resources during the changing times, that they're able to survive what happens, but they have to rebuild. And when you have to rebuild, it's very hard. You are just focusing on survival and rebuilding. You're not really thinking about like the deeper knowledge, the higher knowledge, right? So I do believe that Pangea moved apart from a standpoint of a natural occurrence.
Okay.
Now, do I believe that?
So it wasn't a punishment or brought upon
No, because like I get where you're coming from with the whole Atlantis thing, but I definitely see Atlantis as a different scenario from Pangea altogether.
Okay.
Now, I do think that Atlantis is where some of those ancestors I'm talking about that are much higher in education and knowledge and are able to transcend this existence. I think that's exactly what they did. I think they transcended and they still exist. And brother, we need you. Pop back in. You're welcome. Anytime, you're welcome. Pop back in, fix this shit. Tell us what we did wrong. But anyway, like
your thoughts on Pangea are it was a natural occurrence. Now, do you believe that there was a civilization on there, or was that just a fun theory to discuss?
Well, there were no humans yet.
No, I'm
okay.
I'm
so
spiritually speaking,
not
scientifically. And when I say
spiritually, there were still no humans yet.
Okay.
Spiritually, if there were scientifically no people, there were spiritually no people yet. But the ancestors of like the things that people came from, the mammals that we came from, or whatever became the mammals that we came from, they did exist there. So again, I do believe that
there was consciousness.
They had consciousness. I think as we've discussed, like I believe animals can have religion. So could these creatures have had religion before Pangea split apart? Absolutely. Could they have had a belief system? And could all of that information have been passed down genetically where even if we don't have all the knowledge, we have that we believe in dragons, we believe in zombies, we believe in all these things. We have stories about all these things. And I do believe that could come from that ancestral line. I don't really think that, but I do believe it's possible. Does that make sense?
So, in conclusion, I mean, not in conclusion, but like with my own theory, with Pangea, I think that Pangea was in a time, like you said, before humans, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it was in a time before intelligent beings or spiritual beings walked
Agreed.
the earth.
Agreed.
Could they have been in the shape of what we know as a human? Possibly. Do I think they were physically? I think the physical and the spiritual realm like just go hand in hand. I mean, it's a veil, you know. I think it is absolutely possible that beings that are not quite what we recognize as humans were there on Pangea. I don't necessarily think that they were this animalistic ancestor. I don't think that. I think if anything they would be the souls. I use the term souls liberally, or elements of the universe. I don't necessarily think that they were just like animals that we evolved from. I think they would be more so enlightened that they weren't physical beings anymore, if that makes sense.
Okay. Now, from an esoteric learning standpoint, we'll say that I don't think I believe any animals have are just animalistic, like you said. I think they're all spiritual beings because the moment that we stopped being plant matter and became being these physical moving beings that we are, like there was spirit entailed, like all of it's part of the cosmic mind, like
I don't know
like
how I
even
feel.
the fish that crawled out of the sea, you know.
I'm not.
Excuse me.
I'm not against evolution at all. I just don't know. I haven't done enough. I don't necessarily subscribe to that belief, but I don't think it's wrong either. I think that there's just multiple ways to look at things. So like I can't say that I think maybe some I can't say that I agree with some of the things that you said in reference to a being on Pangea like that. Like I think if anything, I mean that's just me though.
Well, and yeah, and I'm speaking from like everything that I read about, you know, like from both scientific and esoteric and spiritual learnings. Like and like I practice animism. I believe there's spirit in everything, including like the rocks and stuff. So like even the plants had spirit, but you know, some people would say they didn't. And so I guess the way I phrased that just then was that spirit didn't exist in our beings when we were plant-like beings, but it did because we were able to care for our young and have offspring that didn't die as they do as animals, because when we were plants, everything lived longer and we were able to pass our genes on in a different way when we were plants because we propagated differently, and like we literally like put pieces of ourselves out there and then grew it as our offspring. Fucking beautiful shit. And this isn't just like this is based on everything I've read. And you know, it's crazy the way that the esoteric teachings overlap with the scientific teachings. Like you could look into evolution and you can look into the scientific teachings of evolution and you can read esoteric learning along with it, and the amount of overlap is fucking insane. I love it. Like that's my shit. Like it's my fucking shit. So I'm really like, I think this episode's fucking great and I love it because it has been a spiritual thing from the get-go, like from the cosmos coming together. Like not just Earth, like the whole cosmos, like everything coming together from all of it exploding from the nothingness and the chaos. It's all been spiritual from the get-go. You know, and it's a beautiful fucking thing. Life is scary, life is dangerous, life is unfair, as you said, but life is fucking beautiful. Like, damn, life is beautiful. It is. Like, I don't know, it's fucking beautiful. And the more I learn about it, the more I love it. Like, I'm still obsessed with the oryx. Like, it's fucking amazing.
Well, what are your thoughts on Pangea? If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe.
What are your thoughts on one religion? Do you think that there was a cosmic consciousness or, you know, a group settlement where everyone had one religion, you know, or do you not? Like, let us know in the comments while you're there liking and subscribing because we would love to know. And you can also go and find us on the socials. We are on Facebook and Instagram at Witches Talking Tarot.
We're on X at Classiest Witches. And thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Death by DVD.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Victoria. We appreciate you being our patrons on patreon.com/Witches Talking Tarot. And if you want a spiffy little shout out of your own where Maddie saves the day and remembers we got to do that, sign up at patreon.com.
Thanks for sitting with us for a spell.
Bye.